This is creative banter. Life is hard. So you get a puppy, because they're man's best friend and some say they make everything better. Until you realize that raising a puppy and keeping it from terrorizing the environment around you is also hard. So you start going to therapy as a way to deal with this hardship. But therapy forces you to face emotions you've buried away years ago. And that too is hard. And now you realize, even in your introduction to this podcast episode, you're rambling on about, ultimately, nothing. I suppose these are just some of the realities of the world. So let's dive right into this, shall we? And in about an hour, we'll be ready to start.
Yes. Get our countdown.
To be honest, I'm not quite sure why we wait for the countdown, because we don't use this anyway, so...
That's true. That's very true, because we have our separately recorded audio.
Yeah.
I guess it's for the drama.
I guess so. But it's like really ramping up the drama lately.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to do anything. What the hell? Anyway, all right, let's just get started. Oh, there it goes. Nope.
Yeah.
Issue accessing my devices. What?
That's weird.
If I try it again. Someone else is already recording on this account? What?
What?
How?
Somehow.
Nobody else is logged into this account. If someone else is recording on this account, I'm very confused.
Yeah.
Whatever. No countdown today, Ben. Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with Riverside.
We've got our separate audio recordings, and I always just kind of stare at my waveform.
That's what I do too, yeah.
Make sure that my mic is working and such.
Yeah, I always have my screen split. So Audacity is recording on the left, and typically Riverside's off to the right, but Riverside is deciding to be a jerk today. That's okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I was thinking about this earlier though. So this episode's going to come out in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Which is very odd because it puts us behind. It's weird recording these because it puts us in that weird Fuji just had announcements this week, but talking about them, it sounds like we're 2 weeks behind when really we're not. But it's because of the release schedule. It makes it great for so for the Patreon at least, because I've always wanted to have early access to at least a week ahead. And now we're about 2 weeks ahead for early access on the Patreon, which is great. So for everyone over there, and of course we are all very appreciative, but for everyone over there, it's very, very timely. But I was thinking about that though, because my girlfriend and I are adopting a puppy. So
okay.
We were talking last week before we started recording that in the beginning of this month, my family had put down our dog of 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had put her down at the beginning of this month. Real asshole of a dog. I've never owned a cat before, but I imagine she is exactly what owning a cat would be like. Doesn't listen, really doesn't want to cuddle unless it's on her own terms. Wants nothing to do with you kind of deal until she does. So she was very weird especially because of how our first family dog was. But my sister and Maggie, they were very close and everything. The day after we had put her down, it was just, the house was too quiet.
Yeah.
And especially with me being at home all the time because I can't seem to get a job. It's just my whole routine was based around Maggie. And I'd go downstairs into the main section of the house. I'd find her and let her out. I'd make sure she had her breakfast if she wasn't fed already. If I was making an actual breakfast, pancakes or something, I'd make a little bit extra for her kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Little things like that, just owning a dog and spoiling a dog. And especially the last month, because she had developed cancer and she had a tumor on her left shoulder, twice the size of her head by the end of it. Wow. That was just starting to break open. It was not a good quality of life. She was the kind of dog throughout all of her life that at the very thought of food, she would start drooling incessantly. And towards the end, she she'd be there in the kitchen looking at you or laying down beside of you, but she really wasn't that interested in food. She wasn't food driven like she ever used to be, just because she didn't have the appetite and everything. So losing that kind of like bond, that kind of companionship, especially that I had when she was just right aside of me for every single day for the last month, has been incredibly difficult. And I wasn't like close to her before, and I'm working on writing a little bit more about this and the idea of companionship for the first essay for my Substack that I'll go into a little bit more detail with that. But yeah, so needless to say, last weekend, which for those listening is on the 10th of September, my girlfriend and I and my mom went and looked at Cavapoo puppies, which are Cavalier King Charles Spaniels, and they're mixed with poodles.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I was doing the mental math on trying to figure that out, and that's what I came up with.
Yeah.
How big do they end up getting?
They're only like, well, it kind of depends. So these were bred. The poodle was a toy poodle. They're classified as F1B breeds, which is best for someone with allergies, whereas it's a toy poodle mixed with a Cavapoo. And because of the toy poodle being smaller, this one will get about like 12 inches like tall at the shoulder. If you have like a mini Cavapoo, they can get up to like, I think 16, 18 inches tall. And then typically you don't see them, but you can get standard Cavapoos from a standard poodle. And those will be, of course, larger. So we looked at them. My girlfriend was fine in terms of allergies and everything. She stuffed her face in this dog, in this little puppy. It's like 5 weeks old at the time and was absolutely fine. Like maybe some hives here from saliva and that kind of thing. But otherwise she was good. So put it down, put a deposit down on it. And then, so we'll be picking her up on the 26th of September. Or actually I will, because Mel's going to be working. And I don't have anything else to do, so I'm going to be picking her up and dealing with puppy for the next forever.
When we got Oliver back in 2021, it was June of 2021, and he was already 1 year old, and so he was beyond most of all the puppy phase stuff. So we got to miss out on that, which is good. But he didn't have any training, so we had to do all the training. But he does have a fair amount of the toy poodle in him. So he's like Chihuahua, poodle, German Shepherd, all kinds of like. There's so many different. He's like a super mutt of like all these dogs. But I guess both poodles and Chihuahuas are known to be smart dogs. He's not, but you're gonna have a lot of work ahead of you for sure with all the everything that comes with a dog. My wife and I, even though we have Oliver, even though he's a good dog, he's very well trained and all that sort of stuff, we don't really consider ourselves to be very much dog people. I think we're very much more cat people. I don't know. I mean, dogs are so much work compared to cats.
Yeah, they're not nearly as like independent.
Yeah, they're not. But like, I don't know. Like for example, like if I forget to feed Oliver, he will not let me know. He doesn't. Like he just kind of goes on. He's like, I guess I just don't deserve food today. You know.
Poor Oliver.
The cats will let you know. It's very, very apparent with them. So I think it's easier with a cat. And actually, of all the animals we have a orange tabby cat, Finley, who's 10 years old now, and we had him since he was a kitten. But he's probably the most dog-like of all the creatures we have, except for he doesn't bark. So he just wants to hang with us and curl up with us, and he's like the best cat ever. I know that people, when they have kids, they're not supposed to choose favorites, even though they probably secretly do. But we routinely choose favorites with our animals, and Finley, the cat, is our favorite. Oliver's a good boy too, but yeah.
I was reading some threads on Reddit, specifically like about cavapoos and everything. And some of the things that people are saying are like that raising a puppy from 8 weeks and on up is like raising a very fast growing baby. It's just gains independence a little bit faster, but for the first like 6 months, it's much the same. I was reading something the other day that they were saying their puppy on the first night cried and whined for 10 hours straight because of being in the crate and new environment and everything. And along that same thread, so this person was asking, like, should I just let her in the bed with me? Like, is that wrong or whatever? And people were like, well, my sister or someone that they knew let the puppy in the bed the first night and it ended up peeing on her head. So probably no. It's just, it's things like that. Like, we're going to be setting up her crate right aside of the side of the bed that I sleep on, because hopefully then I will be able to wake up and take her out and like deal with her so that my girlfriend can at least get some semblance of sleep because of her working. So, but we crate trained Oliver because the previous owner, so he was basically adopted by someone during the pandemic, and then a year later when they were going back to work, they surrendered the dog to a rescue, which is kind of it's not a great move in the long run. It's good for us. But that's terrible
at the same
to
time,
do.
You have this dog who's traumatized. I think some people just look at like a dog or a cat as just a thing, a possession, and they don't really realize how earth-shattering that is to just be abandoned all of a sudden,
Especially because that dog grew up like knowing your family, like that's all that it knew, and then all of a sudden it's like kick him to the curb because, oh, sorry, now all of a sudden you're too much because I'm working. Like, come on.
Yeah. And there was a time when my wife and I were out walking the dog, and he'd done his business, and so my wife was going over to like, toss it in the trash can. And just the sight of seeing my wife walking away and then me still standing there, he started freaking out because I guess it was giving him flashbacks from when he was,
that's terrible,
given up. Yeah. But when we got him like that, the first night, man, and we put him in his crate because we were crate training him because he wasn't already crate trained. But like my wife had to basically sleep on the ground next to the crate just so that he would calm down a little bit, because it was the same thing that you described where he was just kind of, barking and howling and just suddenly be thrown into this whole different environment. And we even found that the previous owner probably lived in an apartment because he didn't know how to use the restroom outdoors. He only knew how to use it indoors, which is certainly an issue.
Yeah, it is.
And then also he would respond, like when we first got him, he would respond to the sound of like when you lock a Toyota, it has like the sound that basically all the Toyotas make, the little beep beep sound. He would respond to that. So from that, I kind of know that the previous owner probably drove a Toyota as well. Because otherwise he wouldn't be responding to that just from, being in my car like one time at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much that they are aware of. And it's just so sad when people just treat them as a possession or as a thing, as opposed to, a living being that, needs to have support in so many ways. So you'll definitely have some very busy times ahead with all the puppy face stuff. I know that when we got Oliver, even though he was 1 year old, it was so stressful. Like there were multiple times when I said to my wife, I'm like, I don't think I can do this. just because like I'm working from home, and all of a sudden there's like so many more things that it basically disrupted everything that I was doing. And so it was a good, month or so of stress until finally things started getting better. So but you have time, so you'll be able to deal with all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. For me, it's not just going to be a month though. It's probably going to be a couple months till she grows into her 6 month time frame and starts to be adulthood kind of thing. But
Yeah.
and on top of that, let me see. So it was actually the 9th, now that I think about it, it was the 9th that we went to see our puppy, who will be named Emmy. On the 10th, my whole family went to see a puppy for my mom. So now there are going to be 2 puppies coming into the household right in the same weekend. So,
oh, that's extra madness.
Yes. So on the 23rd of the month, we will be picking up my mom's puppy. And on the 26th, I will be picking up Emmy. And yeah, it's going to be me pretty much alone in the house, at least for 5 days during the week. And yeah, I'll be training the puppies and dealing with all of that. The only thing that I don't have to deal with at night is 2 puppies, because then I just have to deal with Emmy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting time. So
yeah, crazy. So this new Fuji medium format camera that was announced by the time most people are listening to this, a couple weeks back or a few weeks back or whatever it is. I was doing the math on it in terms of the equivalent to shooting 8x10 transparency film.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it was interesting because I got a lot of responses from that, because I said I did the math, and at roughly $7,500 for the body, not counting a lens or anything. And if you figure it's somewhere around $30 per sheet of film for the film and the processing. It's actually, I think, a hair more than that, but it's around $30. It's equivalent to right around 250 photos on 8x10. And then I looked at roughly how many sheets of film I expose each year, and that's about 3 years worth of film. And it was interesting because when I posted that, people were looking at, they're like, when you say it that way, that price point isn't too bad. It suddenly made that very hefty price tag seem more reasonable, because if I were to use a camera like that for 3 years, at a certain point, I'm paying less than I'm paying now. Not that I plan to, but it's a solid backup plan for if Provia goes away. But as we've talked about in past episodes, there's a current batch out there again, and it seems like they're doing the production again. But they announced that, and then also the tilt shift lenses and all kinds of stuff. So it's good that they are showing that Fuji is showing a sense of that lineup is showing that's going to be around for a while, more lasting power. Because when they're developing very specialized lenses like that, I think that's a good sign. But again, I have no plans to go out and buy it. But the price seems kind of reasonable in a way, if one's already coming from working with 8x10.
Yeah, and it's the tilt shift lenses for me that really caught my attention. Because, like you, I have no plans of dropping $8,000 on a Fuji camera. Not yet, at least. Perhaps in the future, once my Sony is no longer working. But that the tilt shift lenses are something that I've always kind of wanted to see more of from different companies. The Nikon and Canon are the only 2 ones that actually have them like natively, I'm pretty sure. I don't think Sony has any. Fuji, for their smaller cameras, I don't think has any. These are the first ones I think that they've done. So I just wish that, like Sony, of course, because of me using their system right now, but just in general, that they would start producing more of these tilt shift lenses, just because I think they have you can do so much with them outside of like the stereotypical like creative photography of like miniatures and that kind of thing. Like that's one thing that I'm always going to miss having come from large format, is that capability. Yeah.
When I had a Canon set up a long time ago, I had it was a 45 millimeter tilt shift, and it was nice and all, but it was a bit too constrained compared to working with a large format. just because with large format, I mean, it's so easy to do a little tilt, a little swing, kind of move things around and fine tune things. Whereas you have things are far more rigidly set when you're working with a tilt shift on whether it's a medium format or large format or smaller format, full frame, I guess I'd say. Just because, you have one axis to change things, and then I don't know. The other thing too is when working with a large format, you have the benefit of the big ground glass. And then this is where the super narrow depth of field comes in handy, because you can see very easily where your plane of focus is moving around. And so I think that might be a bit more difficult to work on the Fuji system than using just, a native lens, which is always going to be a tilt shift lens on a large format camera. So if I were to go that direction, I honestly don't know that I'd be as interested in those lenses.
Really?
I would think just using a regular lens and just kind of, making it work. But I'd have to see it in person and kind of work with it to get a feeling for if it would work with more so kind of my style of working now. And they're big lenses too. They're and I didn't look at the price point, but I heard that they're pretty expensive.
Yeah. I mean, I know that Chuck Kimmerly uses the Nikon. I think Nikon has 3 tilt shift lenses, and I'm pretty sure that he uses those for his work. It's one of those things of like, I don't know why they don't make them, but perhaps it's because of those difficulties that you were mentioning, that they're just not as popular. So, and plus, of course, the expense of them.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised that they're not more expensive, the ones that Fuji just announced.
How much were they going for? Because I didn't even really look.
Well, let me check my notes. I have them written down here. So the 30 millimeter 5.6, that's a rough equivalent to 24 millimeter. And it also comes with an adorable little tripod collar to maintain subject position during shift. I thought that was cute. Yeah. It goes for right about $4,000.
Okay, so they're pretty expensive.
And then the other one that they announced, which is the 110 millimeter 5.6 macro, rough equivalence is 87 millimeters, is right about $3,500.
Okay.
So comparing that to the Nikon, which you can only buy used anymore, I think, it's maybe like 3 times the amount.
Yeah.
But still, I would have thought it would be a bit more expensive because of it being Fuji for medium format, but maybe not.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It also, that's when, like, I mean, they look like they're pretty big lenses too, so things kind of start getting bulky again. But I don't know. We'll see on that. But it's good to see the developments of that lineup. Have you had a chance to go out and use your camera and everything else lately?
Yeah, I just actually got back from a hike maybe an hour before we start recording.
Nice.
I reorganized the little camera bag insert that I have now that I'm using 2 different lenses, and was playing around with it a little bit. Not terribly much. I was more so foraging for mushrooms for my grandmother, because I ended up finding some, I think they're golden oyster mushrooms. Sent her a picture and she was like, yeah, pick some of those for me. So I'm like, okay. Huh. So I went over and dropped those off earlier too. I was playing around with the macro yesterday as well, a little bit more, just walking around the backyard and seeing what I could all photograph. And it's really something different. Just like being able to get super close up to things. There's a photograph that I'll post in the Discord that I had taken of just a flower that I had seen. And I was reviewing the image, and I just so happened to see this real itty bitty spider, like no bigger than a pinhead on the flower. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh. So I quick did 1-to-1, got real close up to it, or as much as I could, and then was able to zoom in, and it's like tack sharp for like the good portion of it. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, yeah. I never would have imagined being able to do that. And then I was laying in the grass underneath where we keep some of our wood for the fire, for the outdoor fire pit. And this little wasp came around and was eating at one of the berries that had fallen from a tree, and started photographing that like 1-to-1. And just the depth of field for it is so shallow, but when you get it right, it's so nice. So I'm looking forward to going out some more. I'm planning on hiking, I think this Saturday or Sunday. And I'll be taking that lens with me and playing around more with the tripod head, really just trying to see what kind of creative possibilities there are for it, especially when it comes to plants and little bugs and such. And I played around very little so far with the new tripod head, but very, very happy with it so far from the little that I've done.
Nice.
So
good. It'll be interesting to see how that all works out as you continue to work with it. And it'll be cool to check out the results. So the yesterday I went out for the longest ride I've gone on so far in sporting my spandex. So I did 50 miles. It might sound like a lot, but for people that are into this, that's just kind of like a normal sort of ride. But I've been trying to find a route to head out to the coast, and I finally found something that I like. But in the days or so leading up to that ride, I drove down through those areas because there was some construction going on, and I just wanted to kind of see things before heading out there and try to find the best way. And there was this moment when I was driving along this really busy road, and this is a road that I would never be cycling on. And it's when I'm trying to find creative ways of going the same direction that it's going, but by not being on that road. And I found a way that works really well. But I was driving on this road, and it has probably about 4 lanes going either direction. And by the time you have the road that is that wide, and then it hits another road, you have these massive, massive intersections where it's a really long distance from one to the other. And as I was driving along, I'm just surrounded by all this pavement out there. Meanwhile, I'm thinking of, how I'm going to get beyond some of these areas while I'm on a bike. It was kind of depressing just seeing how developed the area was and how it seems like we're really so entrenched in going down this path of paving over things and so much consumption and so many things being single use. And it was really weird because it was a strange moment where I had this feeling that there's very little hope for the future, which is not what I was anticipating having as I'm just going out there and trying to find a place to ride my bike. But it was just kind of a weird feeling because it seems like the more we hear about, how distressed the environment is, it just seems like we just keep punching further ahead and just running faster and faster towards this inevitable cliff. But it got me thinking a little bit more about, some of the things that we can do to try to make some degree of a difference. Like my wife and I have been doing a lot more composting lately. I found I've been driving a lot less. Even just going out and riding a bike and doing that for exercise, as opposed to, driving to the gym or driving to a place where I'd go skating. I find myself combining errands and doing all kinds of stuff like that, which ultimately doesn't make that big of a difference in the long run. But at least it gives the feeling that I'm doing something. But it was weird, just something about seeing that wide expanse of pavement. And there was one point where I was sitting at a red light, just staring at this, huge intersection in front of me. And then as I start driving, the car to my left decides it wants to change lanes into my lane while we're going across this intersection. I had to blow the horn and just wake the person up. But it just left me feeling so kind of bitter after that, just seeing all of that sort of stuff. But then going out for a bike ride yesterday, I felt much better because I was, doing something productive. But it's just, I don't know. It's just this strange world we live in where so many people are just blindly going about their way and not really realizing how big of a situation we have ahead of us, at some point later down the line. So I don't know. It's a tricky place to be nowadays.
Yeah. Tricky place for me to be growing up in.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on the downward side of the slope, and you're the one has far more of a future ahead.
Yeah. I mean, that goes like,
what is there a consensus that you hear from like people in your generation with regards to like the environment and such?
I honestly don't know. I try, like, I'm not very connected to my generation because of having not been on social media, on top of not really being an outgoing person and having friends. So keeping to myself kind of prevents me from realizing that whole like consensus thing. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know that it's like from student teaching everything, the kids that I was student teaching that were in 10th grade are right at like the youngest portion of what's considered my generation. So I guess, what is that, Gen Z, I guess is technically. And seeing like how they react to things is just, it's kind of funny because it's like they know how screwed we are, and they know that we are like, that the older generations don't care because they're on the way out. And so whatever, it is what it is to them. But so to us, we're just very like, yeah, we want to try and fix everything, but that's a huge weight on our shoulders that was caused by much older individuals, much older politician groups and all of that. And companies especially that don't ultimately care what they're doing to the environment. So it's just an attitude of screw it, I guess. Like, what are we going to do? And try to do what we can, but ultimately there's only so much fighting that you can do.
I will say that from what I've seen, it seems like the younger generation, which has far more at stake, I feel they are far more aware of things than in past generations. And hopefully that will be one of the things that can help see things change. But it just seems like overall our society and the way that we live, and sort of the capitalist society where, you know, everyone is trying to get their own piece. It seems to be incompatible with, you know, long-term survival on this planet. Not to get dark, but it just, I don't know. I have hope for the new generation, but man, this is not going to go well. So I don't know. I feel like we had to have some dark
like
topics
that goes with everything. Like, so on top of having started medication for depression, anxiety, back in June, I also started just at the end of the last month, talking to a therapist for the first time in about a decade, which is a very weird experience for me and everything. But we were talking last week because obviously she knows about my situation when it comes to jobs and the kind of weird spot that I'm in right now, post master's degree, but prior to really starting to go out into the working world. And I was telling her like all of these jobs that I'm applying to, because literally every day I apply to a new job through Indeed or wherever. And I get rejection letter after rejection letter.
Man.
And she was like, she told me something that I think is just, it's absolutely ridiculous, but it goes right along this whole theme of like everybody for themselves, kind of like massive doing what looks good for the company and not caring what looks good for everything else.
Yeah.
But she was telling me that a lot of these companies will post that they're hiring, but not actually be hiring. They're strictly saying that they are hiring because they need to for HR to fill like a quota of getting in so many interviews or whatever. I can't speak on that for every company.
Yeah.
I don't know how any of that works. Like, this is just secondhand knowledge, but still to like hear that. And even if it's true for some companies to think, why are you wasting my time?
Yeah.
Like,
or there's an internal person that they're fully planning on hiring, but they have to put all that stuff out and go through the whole process just to make
that
it
happened
seem
so much with teaching.
Yeah. Because it's all about the networking and everything as opposed to qualifications sometimes.
And then on the other thing, like, I have my master's. So you would think that may give me an upper hand for getting hired or whatever or something. Like even outside of teaching, but especially with teaching? No, it doesn't. Instead, a lot of these places that I'm applying to because I couldn't get a teaching job, a lot of these places are like, yeah, you're overqualified, so you're just going to leave in a couple months anyway when you do get a teaching job. I'm like, that's not really my plan, but sure, okay.
Yeah.
So it makes for a very stressful situation right now where I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Like it seems like the economy or the job economy is booming in terms of everybody hiring, but I still can't get something. Like even the local Wawa is like the gas station food thing, whatever, is like, they won't get back to me and they're always hiring, but I haven't heard from them at all. Like, and the places that I do hear back from or that I do interview, like with LL Bean last week, they're like, yeah, well, this is a seasonal position at $16 an hour. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And they're like, you'll see maybe 10-hour weeks to 30-hour weeks in the busier times. I'm like, I'm not going to travel a half hour to work for $16 an hour for 10 hours. Like, I can't go by that. Like, that doesn't even pay for me to have that job.
Yeah. No,
it's a rough world, Ben.
Yeah. Now, do you think that your experience with what you're going through with all this is going to send you even more down the path of wanting to do your own thing? Obviously, you want to do your own thing because, I mean, that's what everyone wants to do. And it's the feasibility is where it gets to be difficult. But do you think that ultimately that is going to end up being one of the main paths you go down? Or do you think that it will still be, finding the job out there?
It's to the point where I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Like, and that just continues to add to the stress, which is just glorious. But it's one of those things of like, I literally can't get a job elsewhere besides editing and doing everything for Nature Vision magazine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have to try and make this work as much as I can for the foreseeable future, especially now getting a puppy and everything. I can't just shell off all of the financial responsibility to my girlfriend for that because she has a job. Like, that's not fair. So I have to figure out a way to do it. Like, earlier this week, I wrote my essay for the magazine, got that done. And I'm working on an essay for, like I said, the companionship piece because of how important that is for me. Just writing deeply personal stuff that connects to photography, to creativity, to nature, and putting it out there and hoping that something sticks enough that I start being able to build some semblance of an audience and really push towards this because I don't know what else to do. And obviously, like, to everyone listening, this sounds like I'm just like begging for whatever, but like begging for attention or an audience or just complaining about everything. But it's just the reality of the situation that I'm in right now.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's a real struggle for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things of like I said, everywhere that I apply to is denial. Like, it doesn't matter whether it's fast food or like photography stuff. Like, the number of places that I've applied to that are like looking for some sort of photographer, regardless whether it's like product or architectural or portrait or whatever. They're like, I sent in my resume. I'm like, I have like a decade's worth of experience with behind the camera. And they're like, no.
Like, what is it that they're looking for then?
I'm like, these are the places that are looking for real basic, like, school portrait photographers, like families go in for Christmas photos kind of thing for a lot of them. And I get denied from that. I'm like, excuse me? Like, I'm sorry. I know I'm not like fantastic here or anything. And I know that my portfolio is all landscape, but still, like, who are you choosing above me? Like, do I have too much experience with photography to work for you now? Like, is that a thing? Now,
is it considered lying on the resume if you like leave out the master's degree and the experience in photography that you have and just like completely downplay things? Is that frowned upon when they, are surprised to find out after hiring you that you are a very competent individual?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna try to get everything rolling a bit more. Because like I said, I don't really see myself having other choice. Just start this Substack and really start rolling with that. Start putting out more essays. There are 2 different outdoor writers associations that I'm going to see about joining at least one of them and see if they can help me out any. There's one that's Pennsylvania specific, and then there's one that's kind of worldwide, or at least countrywide. See if they can help me out to get published in other publications, magazines, etc.
Yeah.
Other than that, I want to finally put together a photography presentation to give first to NPN and then hopefully to other camera clubs, everything, supposing that it's the NPN first time goes well. And just go from there. Like maybe write an ebook or something on some kind of topic and it's like some informational kind of thing maybe. I don't know. It's going to be rough, but I got to figure something out. Yeah,
I mean, something is bound to hit, which will hopefully give some degree of a sense of direction. But it's a bummer that you're not able to find even like a good part-time job where you have that sense of, financial security from that, and then use the other time to work on the other stuff. But man, it feels like one of the dreams when you're like trying to run in sand or something like that, but you can't, it's gotta be frustrating. Yeah.
Just the realities of the world. Realities of Cody's world.
It could be the title for the episode.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. We finally found it after 45 minutes.
Yes.
Oh, man.
I think we got enough there.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm done being depressed.
I hope you enjoyed our creative banter. You can learn more about Cody's work by visiting his website, codyschultz.com. And you can find my work at benhorn.com. For further discussion, join us at patreon.com/creativebanter. It's a place where we can interact with you, the listener. And although we greatly appreciate those who contribute by joining a tier, discussions are open to everyone, whether you're a paying member or not. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you around next time.